Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. As all of you attending know, I'm sure, I am here with Sun Summit President Sharon Alexander and CEO Bob Willis. We're going to go through today's drill results, but really, I think everybody needs to be clear that the main, to my mind at least, the main point of this is not so much today's drill holes, good, bad, or indifferent. It's what this current drill phase is telling Sun Summit management and shareholders about what this system looks like. And from what I saw in release this morning, it's clear to me that they're now seeing good evidence of continuity and scale. And really, that's sort of the name of the game. I mean, it's great to get a boomer drill hole here, a boomer drill hole there, but none of that really means much if you can't connect the dots and show that you've actually got a system that has scale potential. And I think it's clear to me at least that Buck, I think, is now showing that. And with no further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone and the screen to Sun Summit President Sharon Alexander. She's going to walk us through a quick presentation, and then after that, there will be a Q&A session primarily with Bob Willis, the CEO. I'm sure lots of you have questions. Please, if you do, use the question screen, and that should be on the right side of your screen. Open that up and type questions into it. I will be able to see them here, and I will be passing those questions on to Bob in the Q&A that will immediately follow the presentation. So if you can take it away, Sharon, and give us the update and tell us what's going on.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric. So just to go over introduce everyone to the Buck property and what's been happening here. So like Eric said, we had we released some assays this morning, 8 holes, but I'm going to go over the general Buck property and its size and scale potential, as well as our plans for 2022. So here are some forward-looking statements that I may be making, and just for anyone who's interested, a full version of this presentation will be available on our website, sunsummitminerals.com. So to go over the Buck property and the company, so the Buck property is a bulk tonnage and high-grade gold deposit in central BC. We're at the beginning stages of discovery. We've recently completed over 10,000 meters in 32 drill holes, of which 8 of which are back from the lab. These assays have confirmed that we're seeing a lot of multiple intervals of near-surface vein-hosted mineralization, disseminated mineralization, and breccia-hosted mineralization. And so we're currently planning our next drill program, which we're hoping to start shortly, even before we get the assays back. We have a few no-brainer holes that we're going to be wanting to drill as soon as we can get the rig turning again. And we're expecting this program to be considerably larger than the past program. So we're really excited about the results, and we're really excited to get started again. So just to go over the management and advisors. So I'm Sharon Alexander. I was previously VP Technical Services since we optioned the Buck property. So I'm very excited to be part of the team, mostly because of its, also because of its management and board. So we have Bob Willis, who is our CEO. He's been responsible for seeing a lot of projects through discovery to production. We have Tukey Angus as our chairman. He's been a significant industry player. He's been responsible for a lot of million-dollar mergers and seen a lot of shareholder growth and things. We also brought on Pernie Parikh from the Augusta Group of Companies just recently, so we're very happy to have her expertise on our board. And then, of course, we have Christopher Leslie as one of our technical advisors. Now, he was part of the discovery team of the Blackwater deposit, which we're using as a geologic analog for Buck. And so I think we have a really good team. We have a collection of experience management and a fresh perspective. And so this will really hopefully lead to Sun Summit's growth. So just to go over the property itself, so Buck itself is within a large 33,000 hectare tenure package. It's in a mining established region. There's a lot of existing infrastructure. So for example, it's just south of the town of Houston. You can see Highway 16 there, the Yellowhead Highway. It's about an hour south of Smithers, which is the closest regional airport. But what really sets Buck apart from a lot of these other projects in other jurisdictions, for example, is the great infrastructure. So we can literally drive right to site through Forest Service roads and trails and things like that. So this is extremely helpful in keeping our drill costs down. You know, it affects the seasonality. For example, we just have to plow the roads and we're able to drill. So we have year-round exploration access, which really sets us apart, for example, compared to projects in the Golden Triangle. It's in a mining active region, as I said, so we have a lot of formerly producing mines, Equity Silver Mine to the east as well. There's Huckleberry Copper Mine to the southwest, and there's a lot of active exploration going on in this area, so it's very mining friendly, and we think that the infrastructure and access is really what sets Buck apart. So just go over the regional setting. Just the rocks in green here you see on the map, that's the late Cretaceous Casalca group. Now this is a very important host rock because not only does it host the mineralization at Buck, but it also hosts the Blackwater gold deposit, which is just about 170 kilometers to the southeast. Blackwater, of course, put out reserves of 8 million ounces at 0.75 gram per ton gold, which is very similar to the types of long continuous intercepts that we're seeing at the Buck property. In addition to that, we're seeing a lot of similarities between Buck and Blackwater. For example, they're both intermediate sulfidation, gold and silver systems. There's a lot of sphalerite and zinc associated with in the system, and so we're using zinc as a pathfinder for finding the gold in terms of, you know, when doing analysis and geochemical surveying, there's a strong association between gold and zinc. In addition, we have similar geophysical survey signatures, so high IP chargeability, resistivity highs, as well as magnetic lows. So it's for these reasons that we're using Blackwater as a geological analog for Buck. So not only is it similar styles of you know, geologic styles, but also styles of mineralization and similar grade. So just to go over the Buck property itself, what really sets us apart here is the size and scale potential. So we have an unconstrained system. You can see on the map here, we have the fall 2021 holes, the 8 that we've recently released in the news release this morning, you can see in the yellow. And then all of those green holes are the assays, the holes that are still pending back from the lab. The red down the trace, that's all the mineralization that we've hit so far. So you can see it's quite substantial. You look at the scale bar, that's 1 kilometer east to west. So, and it's yet unconstrained. There's open areas laterally and vertically. So when you look at, for example, in the lower left, we have a Blackwater comparison. So you can see here the resource shell, and as well, all of those dots are the previous drilling that they've done at Blackwater, and the same 1 kilometer scale is overlaid on the map there. So you can see that not only are there geological similarities, but there's also the size similarities between Buck and Blackwater. And of course, we're in the early stages of discovery, and Buck is still unconstrained. So, you know, there's a lot of room for growth there. So our recent drilling, you can see all the holes there for fall 2021 with the yellow collars. Now you'll notice there's a difference between this program and previous programs. In previous programs, we were targeting specific points in the model. So we had different orientations of the drill holes. However, you'll notice in this program, we took a more systematic approach. It was almost like grid-based drilling. So equally spaced with the northeast trending or oriented holes. And so what we were able to get is a lot more in-depth information about the structural controls, the lithological controls. And so we were able to find and define some of these geologic, you know, define the geologic model in this area. So for example, we still have our 3 main styles of mineralization. So we have that high-grade vein-hosted gold that we were seeing in what we were calling the trench zone. We're seeing those long continuous intercepts of disseminated and breccia-hosted bulk tonnage mineralization, which we were seeing previously in the horseshoe zone. However, we're finding it's not as cut and dry as we previously thought. The more we learn about this system, which is very complex, there's been a lot of fluids coming through the system, controlled by different structures and host rocks. And so even within the high grade vein intercepts, we're still seeing long, broader zones of longer mineralization. And then also within the disseminated mineralization, we're seeing shorter intercepts of high grade. So it's not so much as the different styles of mineralization are separate, but we're considering this more now as a pervasively altered package, which we're calling Buck Main. So we also have the mosaic breccia, which is there in the pink, and you can see that's the sphalerite cemented angular breccia that's near surface. And also we were able to identify a northwest trending lithological contact, which is thought to be a control on mineralization as well. But the mineralization, it's a continuous zone, and so that's why we're referring to this now as Buck Main. Okay, just to go on to the next slide here. So we have, you can see the mineralization down trace of the 8 holes that we just released in the yellow collars there. The green, of course, are the 24 holes that are yet to be released. But we're seeing a lot of the same mineralization that we've intersected on the property previously. So in terms of on the western part there, where we have some high-grade vein-hosted mineralization in hole 35, you can see just here we have a meter of 14.86 gram per ton gold equivalent, and then in hole 35 you can see a meter of 31 gram per ton gold equivalent. However, this is within a broader zone of 60 meters of close to a gram per ton gold equivalent. So to narrow it down as to just vein hosted or just disseminated is really not giving Buck the credit. We're seeing long intercepts. It really holds together as well, these long continuous intercepts in an area that we previously thought was more vein hosted gold. And to go on to the right of the east side of Buck Main, you can see again some of these long continuous intercepts, 100, 200 meters of half a gram to a gram per ton gold, as well as shorter intercepts of higher grades. So for example, in hole 38, you can see here we have 53 meters of over a gram per ton gold, 1.25 gram per ton gold equivalent. So we're really excited about these results. This is just the first 8 assays, holes that we've got back from the lab. So we still have 24 holes to get back from the lab, and we're expecting a lot of the same similar styles of mineralization and really confirming the mineralization and the whole mineralized footprint that we're seeing here at Buck. I just want to also make mention that we have also identified a new area of mineralization. For example, in the northwest here, you can see the picture is pointing to hole 60, which intercepted some more mosaic breccia that was previously not modeled. We don't have the assays back from this hole yet. However, it opened up a whole new area, which we're thinking of targeting at our next drill program. So to go over the sections, we have a section here, both are oriented at 20 degrees looking west-northwest. On the left, we have the section in the more vein-hosted gold in the western part of Buck Main. So you can see these higher grade intercepts. So for example, in hole 35, a meter of over 31 gram per ton gold equivalent within that larger, broader zone of mineralization of close to a gram per ton gold. And you can see all the green holes are what's yet to be received from the lab. But we have a greater understanding about the lithology and the structural controls in the system now due to our grid-based drilling. You can see these subvertical quartz feldspar dikes that have come up through the system. So these are thought to be some, have some kind of control on mineralization, either acting as conduits or somehow controlling, the mineralization. And so as these fluids were coming up, they were mineralizing differently depending on the different host rocks. And you can see on the right here, so this is the eastern part of Buck Main, you get these very long continuous intercepts. So if you look at holes 38 and 36, so we have, 200, 400 meters of 0.5 gram per ton gold. So that is very significant when looking at, the bulk tonnage potential here. It really adds to the story. There's a lot of potential ounces, and we see through Blackwater with their long continuous intercepts at 0.75 was their reserves estimation. We're seeing these same intercepts as well as shorter, higher grades. So for example, 22 meters at 2.04 gram per ton gold equivalent. So very exciting results that we're getting, and we have 24 holes to come. So just to go over some of the rock types and the different mineralizations. So on the left, you see this high-grade vein hosted, which is, you see the visible gold. It's associated with quartz and pyrites, carbonates. So this is more of the shorter, higher grade intercepts. The rocks in the middle, you have that disseminated, more bulk tonnage with also higher grade sweeteners. So on the left here, you see this is more of a volcaniclastic pyroclastic tooth, and you can see all of the black speckles here. That's all the mineralization. So we have sphalerite in there, and it's all disseminated throughout the rock. Here you see more of a disseminated breccia. You can see the clast there. So the mineralization would be disseminated through the matrix, as well as sometimes along the margins of the clast, as well as within the clasts themselves. And then on the right here, you have a very beautiful looking rock. It's our mosaic breccia. So the breccia itself is cemented by base metals and sulfides, in this case, a lot of sphalerite. So this again, near surface and, really consistent grades, and all of these different styles of mineralization. It's really dependent on the rock type. As the fluids come through, the mineralization really goes wherever least resistant. And so, for example, if there's pre-existing structures, it'll go through that. If it's a very porous rock, it'll be disseminated throughout. And so these are the styles of mineralization that we're seeing. So as mentioned, Buck, the tenure package itself is 33,000 hectares. You can see the scale bar is 24 kilometers north to south, and we have Buck Main circled there on the map. So keeping in mind that we're using Blackwater as a geological analog, it has similar chargeability, IP chargeability signatures, as well as soil geochemistry. As well, it's underlain by a lot of the Kaselka group rocks. So that's the light green that you see on the map here. And quite a bit of our property is underlain by Kaselka group. And so we kept that in mind when doing our field exploration this past summer. If you look on the map, we have soil geochemistry symbolized by zinc. And so there's a very strong association between gold and zinc on the Buck property. And so we're using zinc as a pathfinder metal in terms of targeting in the surface environment. Zinc is a lot more mobile in soils and in the surface environment. And so it's thought to allow us to easily target where there could be potential gold. And so you can see on the map, there's quite a lot of significant zinc anomalies throughout the property, especially down south towards our Irk deposit, Irk target, where they actually have seen some historic percussion holes. But apart from that, there's been no other drilling done on the property. We have a lot of interesting targets. In terms of what we did recently, you can see the white dots there. That's our soil grids that we've completed on the property. So we took a really systematic approach targeting Kaselka group rocks, as well as doing prospecting and just looking for anything really that caught our eye. We're receiving the results back of those soil, silt, and rock samples back from the lab. We're getting those in and analyzing them, processing them, and so we expect to release those shortly. So through 2022, what's on our agenda? So we just released our 8 holes that we received back from the lab. There's 24 holes left to be released, and so you're going to get a lot of news flow over the next few weeks. we're already planning for the next phase of drilling. We do not necessarily have to wait for all the assays to be released. We have a few holes that we'd love to drill right now. And we expect this program to be larger than our previous program. So, you know, upwards of 50 to 20,000 meters. So yeah, 2022, we're going to have a very busy year. And also we're going to be releasing the results from our surface program shortly as well, once we're finished going through and analyzing and processing those results, which will of course lead to additional targeting for you know, exploration and drilling in the new year. So in terms of our share structure, we have just over 64 million shares outstanding, which brings us to about 86 million fully diluted. Our market cap sitting around 42 million. We have about 2 million in the bank, and that's you know, money coming in from warrant exercises. We have a very loyal shareholder base, you know, a few high net worth individuals that really feel strongly about the project, and some of our best supporters. And so, you know, we're really lucky to have our shareholders really believe in the project, as we do as well. And so you can see in the share chart there, you know, we have had a history of the market responding positively to our results. And so, you know, we hope for that to continue as well. So yeah, with Buck, there's a lot of upside. We have great infrastructure, great access. The system is open, great management team, and yeah, I think it's a great project. And thanks for everyone for listening. Eric, I think we can open it up to questions.
Thank you for that, Sharon. I will ask Bob Willis to unmute himself too and make an appearance. I do have some questions coming in. One, I think Sharon handled it, but someone asked it as a question late in the presentation, so it's a good place to start, I suppose. One of the viewers asked if we could compare and contrast the geological model between Buck and Blackwater. Do you have some comments on the similarities and the differences, Bob?
Good morning, everybody, and thanks. I guess, you know, one of the main takeaways for us at Buck in a comparison to Blackwater at this stage, and we only have roughly 60 holes, is that we see continuous mineralization of the same style of mineralization, meaning the intermediate sulfidation system, and there's several different styles of mineralization, vein hosted, high grade, low grade, everywhere in between. So as far as similarities, I would say what we see at Buck for the potential scale and being that it's open everywhere, and if you just look at you know, at the feasibility study on Artem's website and look at pit shells and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you can see that all the drill holes are, you know, they're not all continuous everywhere, but it's continuous from section to section, and that's what we're seeing at Buck. And that's the most important thing, I think, for Sun Summit, is that in this last round of drilling, we wanted to show continuity of mineralization. What the grades are, I guess we'll all find out once we get these 32 holes, but we have confirmed there is absolutely continuous mineralization from the east, what we've drilled, right to the western edge, what we've drilled, period. So to me, that's the most important takeaway. Secondly, I would encourage folks to you know, realize that, you know, the Blackwater deposit, you know, originally was, as Sharon said, 0.75 grams per ton gold. And sometimes in today's market, you know, we get all jacked up about 30 grams of this and 50 grams of that, and that's very important. But when it comes to building ounces, I'd rather have, for example, one of our intercepts in today's news release, you know, 0.74 or 75 grams per ton gold over 175 meters. I mean, that's 120 gram meters. Now that's what's significant, and Blackwater has that, and Buck has that.
Okay, and the geological model seems to be fairly similar. I believe Blackwater, I think Chris mentioned that Blackwater also has this odd zinc association. Nobody seems to be too sure why that is, but for whatever reason, both of them seem to have that association.
Yeah, and that's something that we've monitored on the way through right from the beginning, and we do get some sections, what we've currently drilled over in the Buck Main Eastern area, where over these long intercepts that are plus 200 meters, and we get significant zinc, 0.5% to up to, can be up to 5%. I mean, so whether that has economic significance, I don't know, but there's definitely like a sphalerite zinc type association, just like Blackwater. So and geologically, 150 kilometers away is not a big deal. And so, that similarity, as Sharon showed on the map there, of the location in the Casalca at Buck and the same, back at Blackwater is really, really important from a regional perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that Blackwater, if people haven't looked at it, one, it's got a pretty impressive NPV, but it also, and this is common with a bulk tonnage style deposit in this day and age, I believe they're using a cutoff of 0.15, and they've got significantly less impressive logistics. Honestly, I mean, Blackwater doesn't look like it's that far away, but in terms of roads and rail and power, it's actually a lot more out of the way than Buck is, which is basically you got roads and power and rail right next to it. I mean, everything's there. Blackwater, there's a fair amount of line building and road building involved in getting that going. You don't have that issue. So, it's obviously way too early to talk in real terms about things like cutoff grades, but it wouldn't be that high in a location like this. This is about as easy as it gets for a mining situation. One thing I wanted to touch on, because obviously this phase you drilled in order to try to get sort of optimal cross-cutting through 2 or 3 different styles of mineralization on a trend that appeared to be northwest. On your sort of drill plan map, you show this sort of, the trend you were following is kind of obvious just from the way that you position the drill holes. But is that trend the trend? I mean, do you even now, do you know if that is sort of the trend for the property? Are there other trends? Are there other directions you think you might have to go off in as you keep drilling this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think the simple answer is no, it's not the only trend. And, we've talked about this northwest, southeast structural corridor, if you will, and, put boundaries, if you will, along the edge of that. Well, it's not constrained, but the reason why we said this corridor is 300 to 400 meters wide in the northwest direction, simply because that's what we've explored and that's where we know it exists. We do know to the north there are historical drill holes and 2 or 3 drill holes that we drilled a year ago that have significant mineralization of similar grades, similar breccia, similar styles of mineralization, which we will be following up this year. So part of the reason why and looking at this map, you can see like the 3 yellow holes on the right hand side, and then the 4 on the left, and then there's, I call it the gap zone in between all those green dots are the holes that we're waiting for. So what we've found is that it's all mineralized. So this structural corridor is mineralized throughout. Now, grades will vary all over the map, no question about that. And so today when we put out our drill results, and it was pretty much more of the same. I mean, we're very excited to find more of the same. I mean, to us, that's what you hope to find. Yeah, it'd be nice to find these nice little juicers here and there, and I'm sure we will, but that's not the big picture here. And so I think to the north, there's another area, whether it's a parallel corridor. There's been some historical suggestions that maybe it's a parallel corridor to the north. We also know, going to the south, that historical holes have the same kind of breccia mineralization as well. So we're kind of just nibbling at the edges of this thing, and we're trying to not just get in there and start drilling holes every which way from center, until we have some kind of understanding of how we're spending our money and how we're generating ounces. And so we're getting there, but we're not there yet. And as Sharon mentioned in her presentation, yeah, we did, we drilled these holes in the orientation we have, and we've got some very valuable information. But I can tell you that, we're still scratching our head here and there about, we may be drilling in a little different orientation, a few holes here very shortly. And the key thing is these yellow arrows on this thing, open, 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 open. So I would suggest there are parallel zones, and we know for a fact it's open, and they're open far to the west as well, but we have to wait for our last summer program to disclose all that results. But I mean, it's yeah, I mean, we're just kind of touching the edges of this thing, and as Sharon mentioned, it's not an easy one. It is super complex, and when you get guys like Chris Leslie scratching his head, I mean, then it's complex. So, and I like that, and most geos do like that. So, the key thing here is that this thing is mineralized throughout. I think I said that from the get-go.
Okay, and there's a couple of questions that I think can probably be joined together, I guess, to be one question, because they're sort of related to each other. And the questions were, first, do you have some idea what your cost per meter is for drilling here? And the second unsurprising question is, do you need some cash before you? I think it was before you start drilling, but I think it was I think the actual question is to complete the 2022 drilling. And I realize you don't even know how much drilling that's going to be yet, but you want to tackle those two as a sort of as a one piece answer?
Sure. Yeah, our all-in costs, I mean, that's all in assays and the whole schmeal, is somewhere between $280 and $300 a meter. Maybe we'll be a little bit less going forward here, but and as far as what is our plan, we have sufficient funds to continue drilling. And there's been the odd question recently saying, well, why did we stop drilling after 10,000 meters? And the answer is that the drill productivity at Buck, I mean, it's just, it kind of blows you away. Like, we were getting 300 meters a day from, and banging that into the core shack and asking these guys to start logging it and find out where should we, do we drill deeper? Do we move to the right or left? And so we just got so much core so quickly that we needed to stop and get some assays. I mean, we ended up drilling 10,000 plus meters with no assays. So you just can't keep, in a volcanic pile like this that's so complex and screwed up, that's mineralized throughout, you just can't start drilling holes everywhere. And so I think we've got sufficient cash to get going again. Our plan is we're currently in the planning stage to get going again ASAP. And as Sharon mentioned, we see just some obvious areas that we want to just start drilling some holes. And in parallel, as assays come in, then we'll probably ramp up into a much more significant program. Much more significant. That's what I'm going to say.
Okay. Yeah, I know you're planning something a lot bigger. One of the other questions, and I think this ties into the results that you're still sort of waiting for and starting to compile from summer. One of the listeners asked if you had any plans to drill the ERC target soon. And I mean, I think that's obviously because when you look at that soil geochem map, it kind of jumps out. But although I would preface Bob's answer by saying, and this is something that Sharon mentioned, zinc is really mobile. That's both a good thing and a bad thing. Zinc tends to generate big impressive anomalies, but you have to figure out where the big impressive anomaly came from, because it does tend to spread out quite a bit. That's just one of the things with zinc when you're doing soil surveys. Do you have any general thoughts, I guess, on timing? Because I guess you've got to get some results, but I suppose, are you working on sort of broader permitting as well?
Yes, we have in the works a property-wide permit for substantial exploration, which includes significant drilling on basically anywhere within the property. That may take a number of months to get through the system. As one can imagine, up in northern BC, the government offices are just swamped with everybody in their wanting a permit. So we've had that in the works for 3 or 4 months, I think. And so the answer is, at some point we think there's going to be drill targets, possibly around the Irk, Calcasite Creek, Eagle Eye, that kind of Buck North, that kind of thing. We are looking at doing possibly some BTEM or ZTEM here as soon as we can, to, as you say, to maybe take out of the risk equation of zinc being mobile, and possibly with VTEM we could kind of identify some some conductive rocks, hopefully right below where these zinc anomalies are. So there's probably one step first, but I could conceivably see, if targets continue to develop the way they have been, I could see that we could have numerous drill targets within the property by this summer. Touch wood. I'm perfect.
And just to be clear, the permitting we're talking about is much broader, property-wide permitting. You do in fact have permits in hand to just keep going with the drill in the Buck area itself.
Oh yes, we have been quite diligent about use of pads and roads and things and stuff. So we have a green light to keep going. And I didn't want to tiptoe around too much our enthusiasm about size of drill program, but we just drilled 20 or 10,000 meters in 6 weeks or 7 weeks or something like that. So I mean, like, I could see, I mean, this property right now to me deserves maybe 20,000 additional meters in this thing. And it's where and how and all that kind of thing. We want to be careful, because first of all, we need to get all the assays back from this 32 holes we have, plus really get our heads wrapped around some of the geological interpretation. Once we see the assays, it's fine to say, oh, look at all this mineralization and it looks great, but I mean, some of it's half grams, some of it's 10 grams, and so that can really dictate like designing an actual drill program. And so we're kind of working on it piece by piece as we can, but we're going to need another month thereabouts to kind of get this program in place. And we've got a great technical team working on it, steady, and we've got all the works in order to have the drill turning again very, very shortly. Of course, the new COVID situation is, slowed things a little bit, but we don't really see that's going to be an issue. But we have a protocol in our company that's very strict. And so anyway, we're very, very busy, and we just can't wait to get going on this property again. It's probably the most exciting project I've been involved in my career, and really it's because of the scale of this thing. I mean, you just don't get systems like this that everywhere you drill you get mineralization. Like, it's just, and so you really need to pay attention to these things and do it right, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, and I think you mentioned to me the other day, the plan is to be, probably around the time you get the last set of assays, you'll probably have the rig turning again. I believe you've got a rig on site, and you said that your drillers told you they don't foresee any great problems in adding another rig or another 2 rigs or whatever. But I know your situation is similar to what Great Bear ran into when they were drilling LP. A lot of shareholders were really kind of pounding the table going, why aren't you guys using 10 rigs or 15 rigs or 100 rigs? Because there's so much to drill. But they also had extremely productive drillers, as you do. Your drillers are very fast. And I think the problem you run into with these kind of drill programs, it's not so much the drill, it's the core shack. That's really where your bottleneck ends up being, because you can only get so many warm bodies into a core shack, and you've got complex stuff that takes time to log. Plus somebody's got to cut it, bag it, all that stuff. So I know you don't, I know the drillers were getting significantly ahead of the loggers in the last program because they're going so fast. And I think you said you're going to probably be adding more people this phase, but still, probably 2 or 3 rigs, you'd be banging out a hell of a lot of meterage if the drillers do as well as they did last time.
Yeah, no, that's very true, and I can't agree more. It's it's all nice to say you got 10 rigs turning, but and if we could, we may, but as I mentioned, I mean, we're dealing with a very complex system here, and to and at this stage of the project, we need to see assays to expand programs, to change programs, to make the programs fluid, to deepen holes, shorten holes. Like it's just not a matter of spending 10 million bucks to put a ton of holes in there and then wait 6 months for assays and hope you find something. I mean, we're way beyond that. I mean, we've got enough pierce points in this thing now to know that we're onto something significant. So yeah, I mean, we will ramp up with as many rigs as we think that we can handle and that is appropriate for generating the data and really ramping up the ounces that we think could be on this property, and that could be significant. So but like I say, it's important to do it right, and I think our group is, we got a really top-notch group, and so I just listen to what they're telling us, and so far it's been very successful. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a long answer to how many rigs and when and stuff, but I would think that, yeah, I mean, we've got a meeting later this week internally to really get into some more definitive, like, let's start the drill again on this day this week or something. And but anyway, it's I would expect a pretty major program this year. So,
And in terms of results incoming, I mean, you've got one set now after the long wait for results. Now that they are in fact coming in, what's your expectation in terms of getting the rest of the results? I mean, you got any sense of when you'll get more news out, or how long do you think it's going to take to get the rest of them now that they've started coming in?
yeah, I mean, I think, I would think we're a couple weeks away from another batch. Part of the equation in timing of results is, when you get over limit anything, so over limit, like over 1% zinc, for example, or over 100 grams silver, which is an over limit, or over 10-gram gold in any assay certificate, then of course it has to be reassayed. So you can add a week or 10 days right there, and it can only take one. It doesn't have to be gold or silver. It could be anything that's an over limit. It just delays, and so that could be 1 or 2 or 3 assays out of a drill hole that you can't report until you get the second assay, and then we got to put it through all the QA QC stuff, and it just takes time. So it's going to be at least a couple weeks for another batch, and just looking at kind of where we're at today, it might be, if we get everything out, it could be a month.
Okay.
For everything, but that is not going to it's not going to stall us to turn the rig again. We said, like Sharon said, we have enough knowledge, we have enough openness, what we see on this project, that we're just gonna we're gonna get going again, and that's really important, and we'll ramp up from there.
Okay. I mean, I think that pretty much covers everything. I can't think of anything else in particular. Is there anything else you wanted to address, Bob, that maybe wasn't in the release that you think is important to get across to people?
I don't think anything more than what Sharon has talked about, or what you and I have just talked about. I mean, really, I just hope the main takeaway here is for folks not to get too focused on 2 or 3 drill holes here, 3 or 4 drill holes there, but to zoom out and look at this project and look at the scale, what we currently know. And we haven't, like Sharon says, this is unconstrained, so we see some pretty significant area of mineralized rock, which is open everywhere. So to me, that's the main takeaway. And secondly, I think you made a good point. We need to recognize the location of Buck. I mean, it's really important. If we think we're going to get at some point to a resource, and we think this could be a mine one day, then you really got to start thinking about margin and cutoffs and all this kind of stuff, right? So and we do now. I mean, we think about those things from the get-go, but Buck is situated where it's you don't need to have 4, 5, 6 gram gold to make it work. It's not sitting on a mountaintop someplace. So it's I think those are 2 important things, is just think about the scale of this thing, the grade we have so far. It's more of the same, and we're extremely happy with more of the same. And I hope the rest of our results are more of the same. we might have some boomer numbers in there somewhere, but that's not the big picture. The big picture is building ounces and these big gram meters. So I guess in summary, those are the 2 or 3 key things.
Okay. No, I think that's a good summary. And, you know, like I said at the start here, really, this update is about getting people to help get people to appreciate the fact that what this program was about was, can you define trends and can you define contiguous zones that you can chase? And certainly based on the drill plan and the cross sections, it looks like you've done that. But also for people to understand that the thing is still wide open. I mean, what you've got now, that isn't it. That's just the it that you happen to put drill holes in. People can go back and look. There's other areas where Sun Summit had, you know, much more widely distributed holes where they threw it out here, one over there, and there's several of those that actually had pretty good intercepts, and none of that's been followed up on yet. But I'm sure that's coming in the upcoming programs this year, because this sounds to me like you're probably looking at 2 or 3 programs for 2022 by the sounds of things. You just kind of keep moving at it. Okay, thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you, Bob. Great update, guys. I think you guys are going to have a great year. I like the look of this. I think it's going to get a lot bigger and a lot more exciting as we go forward, once people kind of get their heads around the big picture of this system. Thanks for dropping by, everybody. I'm glad you could turn up for this. Mercury Media will, of course, be generating a tape, which I will send out to subscribers, and I'll pass along to Bob and Sharon, so we can go to shareholders, go up on the site, whatever they want. But there will be access to recording if you weren't able to make it live today. I think that's it for now. Thanks very much. See all of you again soon.
Thanks, Eric.